You've made it a priority at TWG to make sure that you have a diverse workforce. Why is that important to you?
Well, for two reasons really. One is we build software products, and software products that hopefully and often hit millions of users, and therefore that needs to offer a diverse perspective in those products. They need to be accessible to a wide variety of people, and if they're not, there's missed opportunity, there's people that are left behind. So that's really critical to what we do kind of as a core aspect of our business. The second reason is building a company filled with ideally talented people. We need to create a diverse, comfortable environment where people feel safe to be themselves. And those are really foundational pieces for growth from my perspective.
It's interesting when you hear people talk about diversity, because diversity is one thing and inclusion is another thing. When you talk about inclusion, that's more about feeling as though you have a seat at the table. How has your workforce responded to this mission of yours?
It's one of those things that's very hard to measure at the end of the day. It's this feeling you get from a culture perspective, and I think it gets measured by the results at the end of the day in the company. So, we do a lot of things that ensure we're asking and checking on people if they feel safe, if they have a place where their voice can be heard, where they can be themselves again, and we do that through both technology, both through our kind of management structures and philosophies. So it happens in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, I think it's mostly important that you see it come through the work itself and through metrics like retention and the ability to attract the right type of talent into the company as well.
Let's talk about some of the work that you do and some of the projects that you work on. What are some highlights?
Wow, we do such a wide variety of work, from high growth startups like Wealthsimple and FreshBooks and CoinSquare, companies like that are doing big, meaningful things in the world of software and startups, right up to large enterprises like General Motors and RBC, some of the biggest companies in the world. And the diversity of work is huge. So, we're doing things like helping a company like General Motors figure out what types of hardware they can integrate into their cars. For instance, to imagine if your heart rate was going up and your Fitbit was picking that up, could you alert the car and understand if there's something going on from a health perspective and actually alert the authorities or change the conditions of driving from within the car, things like that. To other things, I think, along the lines of diversity and inclusion around building those types of practices, using human-centered design practices in the process for a company that just isn't big enough or far enough along to have the ability to do that themselves, whether it's CoinSquare growing at an unbelievable pace. They just can't possibly think of all those things when they're doing that. So we can build mobile apps for them and web applications that consider those key issues in software.
Is there one particular moment that you've experienced while you've been working with some of these clients where there has been perhaps a woman at the table or someone on the team that has added and benefited the end result as far as the software that you've built?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the women on our team have strong voices all the time, and thankfully that's been part of who we've been all along. Now it's more about systematizing that and making sure that truly is happening and can scale with the company itself. But absolutely, that's I don't even think about it in those terms because it happens every day.
What would you say to a software company that is looking at its workforce today and recognizes that perhaps there isn't a lot of diversity? What would be the first step to ensure that diversity becomes a priority for them?
Yeah, that actually happens quite a bit, and I think there's a lot of information out there in the market that's suggesting that it needs to become a priority. I can't believe we're only having this conversation now, but then it's not clear what to do. And we went through this a number of years ago and realized you couldn't build a diverse company just with the right intentions. Even with the right values, frankly, you actually need help, and you need to do this kind of methodically and think it through and invest in it. And so we put together a program that we call Change Together, and that has been the kind of springboard for us backing things like Move the Dial and other things. But for us, it was bringing in experts that have done this before and analyzing and auditing our entire business and looking at the market as a whole, and then making changes on the back of that information. So what I would suggest to others is you have to prioritize this and you have to invest in it, and you can't just do it with the right intentions. You actually need help to do it.